I can't tell if my 24F boyfriend, M27, is racist or what. I am a black woman and boyfriend is a white male. I've been seeing him for about 6 months. Early on in our relationship he mentioned he thought date programs going away was good because people should get opportunities based on merit not race. I shrugged it off and tried to see where he was coming from, but anytime the topic of race came up he would mention how white males and culture is being erased, or white males are being pushed out and can't speak up about being pushed out. I understood we had different experiences and tried to hear him out. But today he came over after I decorated for Christmas. He saw I had a black Santa statue and comment, "That's a statement." I replied, "What do you mean?" and he went on about how Santa is white people culture. When he thinks of Christmas he thinks of a white guy. He thinks POC should create new holidays and traditions like Juneteenth instead of stealing white people's culture. I told him as a WOC growing up as majority white area it is nice to see representation. As a child I didn't see representation and I would wish I was another race to fit in. He said he saw where I was coming from and apologized that I experienced that. He mentioned he wasn't racist, he's just tired of white people being silenced and that racism is shifting to white people. Two wrong don't make a right. I feel sad and unsure where to go moving forward. I don't feel like he's racist, but he's something I can't put a name to. Advice? Comparing Christmas to Juneteenth? A holiday recognizing when slaves in Texas finally learned they were free? That's a choice. A racist choice. This will probably hurt, but here's what I think. Your boyfriend is parroting white supremacist talking points while dating a black woman. That's not just cognitive dissonance, it's racist colonizer mentality. He thinks he can date you while simultaneously telling you what cultural elements you're allowed to participate in. Stop trying to find a different word for racism. He's not something you can't put a name to. He's a racist who thinks dating a black woman gives him immunity from being called racist. Let's be crystal clear. A man who tells his black girlfriend that black people should create their own holidays instead of stealing white culture is racist. Period. He's the type of person that says, "I'm not racist, I have black friends." Then proceeds to be insanely racist. You're the black person in his situation. I hope you find the happiness you're seeking. No, 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 no. Trust me as a black woman who just left an abusive racist white man. He's one disagreement away from calling you a slur. Really? Christmas is a white holiday. I thought it was a Christian holiday, appropriated from pagans, and based on how much most colonization was about making everyone Christian you'd think it would be a racially neutral holiday, thinking face a holiday celebrating a brown Jewish man. It's almost as if the problem isn't the history of the holiday but rather that white people aren't the center of it. Your boyfriend is racist. Anyone who thinks the white man is the most persecuted element of society who aren't allowed to run their mouths whenever they damn well please is either a racist or has brainworms. Get him checked out by a doctor and if he comes back worm-free, you have your answer. Girlfriend wants kids, I'm not ready. How do I get her to understand? 24M and 23F. 24M, and GF, 23F, are at two completely ends of the topic of kids. We have been together for around 2 years at this point. She is ready, as if she wants a kid tomorrow. She brings it up in passing. Every time we see kids' clothing while out shopping, she brings up the topic every 1-2 weeks, which I'm sick and tired of. Her reasons as to why she wants kids, well, it's a bit personal. But long story short, she is 9 years younger than her older sister. The focus was never really on her. She did not have the best childhood, and wants to correct what her parents couldn't. She wants to be a young mom. And 30, in her mind, is ancient. Now, I want kids. I want kids with her. I'm just not ready. I've tried to talk with her about this, but seemingly to no avail. I've recently just got back into studying, which means I will graduate when I'm 27, a much better age for kids, if you ask me. My reasons as to I don't want kids right now mostly stems from my own childhood. My parents never had any money. I never felt like I was missing out or needed something, however my parents always somehow made me feel like a burden, economically speaking. Later in my teenage years, I developed a bad gambling addiction that I'm still battling today. I never want to make my kids feel like they are a burden. I want my kids to feel mostly carefree, if not completely. Financially we are just getting by. Our budget is not set up for savings, which fucks with my head, and we can't go and splurge whenever we feel like it. In other words, we only buy need-to-haves, never nice-to-haves. Emotionally, I want to be in control of my own life before committing to a child. I want to be able to control my gambling urges. I want to be in our own house. I want to live somewhat comfortably and not stress about income and expenses. Finally, I don't see 27-30 as ancient. I see it as the perfect age to get kids. Sorry for any typos. And thanks for reading my ramblings. Thank you in advance. She needs therapy, not children. Before breaking up, I would really set her straight on this. She is desperate to have kids for her own sake, completely regardless of the well-being of the actual kid she is trying to have. Kids are humans, not devices for self-betterment, and the way she is behaving should fuck a kid up. I think her reasons for wanting kids are selfish. She should work with a therapist first, not screw around trying to fix herself by bringing a human into the world. You two aren't engaged. You're not married. You're not financially sound. You're young. I'd tell her that you'd be happy to discuss kids more concretely. Ask her to put together a budget and how she plans to pay for said children plus the existing expenses. Ask if she's willing to forego a wedding to have kids. I'd be real careful having sex with her. I mean very careful. Women with baby rabies can do some sneaky shit and then you have a kid whether you want one or not. I think you need to tell her that you are not ready. You want to focus on your studies and improving your finances before creating a life. If that's a deal breaker for her, then let her go. Also, maybe I'm too European for this topic, but 24 and 23? Y'all are kids lol. I'm 29, not even thinking about having any in the next 4 years lol. The easiest route is probably to discuss the realities of financially providing for a child. Sit down together and make a budget including every pregnancy and child-related expense and compare it to your finances. It will likely become quickly apparent that you two can't afford a child. Honestly though, children are always two yes and one no. If you are a no right now, that's that. The worst thing you can do is have a child just to appease a partner. If it's more important to her to have a child now than to be with you, you can't control that. What you can do is talk about a timeline that you can both live with. If you're okay with trying when you're 27 and she's 26, that's a fair compromise and she will still be a young mom. Sounds like you need to break up. Sorry, I'm not ready for children and it won't be years for me. I am breaking up with you because we want different things at different schedules. I hope you can find someone ready for what you want. Before having children, you should ideally be financially and emotionally ready. You're not on the same page and it doesn't matter how much you love each other, it's time to break up. I, 33M, am worried my wife, 34F, cheated? How should I handle this situation? My, M33, wife, F34, went to a bachelorette party a few weeks ago and I think I have cause for concern that she might have cheated. To start with, I've been cheated on before, so I can't help but be suspicious to try to protect myself. I know that's not fair to my wife, but I don't want to be totally blindsided like that ever again. My wife and I share our location with each other, so I was tracking her throughout the night. When she arrived and was getting ready, I took note of the location of the Airbnb they were staying at. Then as the night progressed, I would periodically check in on her. I work overnight, so I was up anyway. Things started normal. They went out to eat and then went to a bar, club, which is 100% no problem with me. They stayed at that bar for several hours, eventually leaving around midnight 12:30, and then they went to a strip club until about 2 and then went back to the Airbnb. I didn't have too much concern that night. A little bit of me felt weird about the strip club, but it's a bachelorette party and who hasn't been to one before? I certainly have. No biggie. My wife did text me saying she got back to the place around 2:15 and we had a nice back and forth text exchange until 2:30 when she didn't respond to my last text. Things started to become a little concerning when she got home the next day, and I asked her about the night, and she didn't say anything about the strip club. Again, I don't care that she went, but the fact that she hid it from me is concerning. And I know people will say, oh, I'm sure she thought you would get mad, but that's not our relationship at all. We almost never fight, and if we do, we talk it out and it ends quickly. So to me it seems suspicious she wouldn't mention it. This is where things will get dicey for some people. The day after she got back, she fell asleep before I had to go to work, and her phone was charging on my side of the bed. So I picked it up and looked at the bachelorette party group chat. And there were a bunch of pictures and videos of her and her friends hanging out with a bunch of random dudes, including a video of her giving a guy a piggyback ride and standing in front of a guy with both of them flexing. Again, not the end of the world. We could go out and have fun like that, but to not say a word about it makes me think she feels guilty about something. Also, when I went through her camera roll, there were pictures of her getting ready and looking hot that she didn't send to me. I couldn't find if she did send these to anyone, but why take those pictures and do nothing with them? So at this point it's definitely bothering me, but I don't really have anything to say she cheated. Then last night I was at work again and there was no Wi-Fi. I was trying to watch a college basketball game on my phone, but I had reached my GB limit for my phone plan, and it wasn't working. I went to try and upgrade my plan. While doing this, I discovered I could get a history of her texts and calls. So I looked back to that night and say that she had texted a number from a different area code at 2 a.m. This morning while she was in the shower, I looked through her phone again and found she had deleted the texts. I recovered the texts and saw that she texted that number the address of the Airbnb at 2 a.m. and that the person, a guy I'm assuming, said, "We had a blast tonight." Sri that Kevin. Aka mustache ruined everything. So now I'm freaking out. Why then hell would you text a dude your address at 2 a.m. unless you're going to hook up? Like what other possible answer could there be? I want to confront her but I know the methods I used to find this shit out make me look like a psycho. And if it turns out to somewhere be benign then she's going to think I'm a psycho. Also, we have 2 young kids together and I don't want them to be negatively impacted by this in any way, so part of me wants to forget it and try to move on. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. TLRI did some serious sneaking to find out my wife texted a dude her address at 2 a.m. Should I confront her? My wife did text me saying she got back to the place around 2:15 and we had a nice back and forth text exchange until 2:30 when she didn't respond to my last text. Did you reply, "I know, I've been tracking you all night"? You are going to have to ask her. Lots of women take photos of themselves without sharing them with their husband. What the hell is that point? I can't speak about your wife's fidelity, but man, you need to get a grip. Your fear of cheating has you behaving like a psycho. You desperately need therapy either way. Got a funny feeling that a bunch of dudes came back to the Airbnb after the club and if what happened got out, a lot of relationships would be over. Collect evidence, confront. Be prepared to call the guy in front of her. Unfortunately, it's more likely that they'll all lie and you'll never get the truth. Good luck. Update me. I mean you could avoid all these strong feelings by just speaking to her and seeing. No point in writing all this when you could communicate your feelings, she is your partner after all. My fiance, F28, told me, M26, last night, I can't be in this relationship anymore. Any advice? My fiance and I met 5 years ago at a bar she worked at, she still currently works there. It took a while but she finally decided that I wasn't just trying to sleep with her and gave me her phone number. When we first started talking it just felt so easy. We both were able to talk about and express feelings and experiences that we couldn't talk about with anyone else. We spent every free moment with each other and didn't want it any other way. One of the first times we ever had sex, she started crying and told me she loves me and she has never felt so emotionally connected to someone before. By this point I had already told her I love her, so to hear her say it back meant the world to me. About 4 months after starting to date, I moved out of my mom's house and into a townhouse with my best friend. I asked her if she wanted to move in with me because she was still living at her mom's house. She told me she wasn't ready to move in and I told her that was perfectly okay. After about a month of me being at the new place she decided to move in. Everything was great. We were both very happy and wanted to do everything together. Fast forward about a year. We found out she was pregnant. Side note. She never in her life pictured herself having kids and never pictured herself getting married. This was not intentional and we were weighing our options. By this point we were living in a bedroom in a townhouse with 2 dogs and all of our stuff. We decided it was time to get a place of our own. At the time it made more sense to buy a house instead of find something to rent. The best advice we were given was to take a couple days and try and be excited about having a baby. There were just too many factors and we ultimately came to the decision to have an abortion. Having an abortion was one of the hardest things we ever had to deal with. It was especially hard on her. It sent her into a depression and when I would try and support her she'd just get worse and I don't really know if she's ever full processed it. I still think about it often so I'm almost positive she does too. At this point we still wanted to get a place of our own. We found a house and we both put in a lot of hard work to get it. We moved in November 2021. During this time she was going out a lot. I worked second shift so I would be at work while she was out drinking. She started hanging out with one of my best friends a lot and she would always tell me she was hanging out with a girl that she worked with. This was a major conflict in our relationship but she kept assuring me that nothing was going on and she didn't even see him like that. We'll circle back around to this. In December of that same year, she decided she was ready to have a baby. We were both super excited and immediately started trying. We found out in the beginning of January that she was pregnant. In April we decided to tell our families and make an announcement. While we were at my sister's house, telling her the good news, I got a message from someone on Facebook. The message was from someone telling me that my fiance has been cheating on me with my friend from earlier. She saw my face when I read the message and I think she already knew what it was. We got in the car to go home and I straight up asked her about it. It took a lot of prying but she told me what was going on. She was going over to his house 3 times a week from July until January. She said she stopped because she felt like a shitty person. She told me she loves me and if I wanted to still be with her then that is what she want. I took a day and thought about everything and decided to tell her I forgive her and that I just want things to be normal since we were already halfway through the pregnancy. She told me the reason she did it was because she didn't feel loved. Which I took the blame for because I just wanted things to work and I had already invested so much into building a future for us. I still think about this every day and I don't think I've ever truly gotten through it. In September our daughter was born. We were happier than ever. This is what we had been building for. Our daughter has been the focus of my fiance's life since she was born. She's 2 years now. For me, my focus has been on building the future. My daughter and my fiance are on the same level to me. We've had a lot stressors in our lives over the past 2 years, but I've always kept looking at the bigger picture and knew that all of those things were temporary. For the past 6 months my fiance's sister and her 3 young boys have been living with us. It's been a living hell and we are both extremely burned out and stressed about it. Fast forward to last night. I got off work and went to pick up my daughter from my mom's house. My fiancé had gotten off work 2 hours earlier than me and went to a bar with some of her friends. When I called her I could tell she didn't want to talk and it seemed like she was annoyed. When we ended the call I said, "I love you," and she mumbled it back and hung up. She told me she was going to be home soon but ended up coming home an hour later. When she got home she went into the bathroom and locked the door. We typically don't lock the door. Our daughter had followed her into the bathroom and I could hear my fiancé whispering to her. When she came out of the bathroom I could see she had been crying. I asked her what was going on and that's when she told me. I can't be in this relationship anymore. She said when she looks at the future all she sees is her and our daughter. She said I love you but I don't feel like I'm in love with you anymore. When I look into the future I see us growing old together and experiencing life together. She said she's not happy with me and she's not happy with herself and she just can't do this relationship anymore. She said she's just been trying to deal with it all on her own because of our daughter. I asked her what she wants and she said she just wants to co-parent with me. She said she'll move into our daughter's room and continue to live in our house. I just want to see what others think about this situation. I still see and feel the spark. I just believe it needs to be reignited. We don't really have time to spend together with just us, so it's been very taxing on our relationship. She said we don't have anything in common, which is not true. She got that idea from before we ever started dating. We were joking around about doing a podcast together and I said we don't have anything in common to talk about. Which has proven to be completely false, but she told me last night that she replays that moment in her head multiple times a week still 5 years later. I want her to go to individual counseling to help her with what she's dealing with and we've talked about finding her a counselor before. I just feel like she's made her mind up and that although counseling would still benefit her, it won't help this situation. She told me she didn't really want to try couples counseling either. Does anyone have any advice on how to handle this situation? If she moves out I'm not going to be able to afford to live in our house anymore. And the thought of not seeing my daughter every day kills me. I just don't know what to do. Any words or advice would be appreciated. Has anyone here been in a similar situation where it all worked out? If it didn't work out, what is your situation now? Edit. When she was cheating on me she said they never had sex. I have no way to prove this but I pried a lot of information out of her about everything and the details. I originally wanted a paternity test but for some reason decided not to. My daughter does resemble me a lot but I have always had the thought that maybe she's not mine. At this point, the last thing I want is to find out that she is not my daughter. She's the only good thing that will be left from this life I've been building. My daughter loves me and I love her. I don't want that to change. Let's be brutally honest, this relationship has been dead since she cheated on you while pregnant. You ignored massive red flags, took blame for her infidelity, and tried forcing a broken relationship to work. She's been checked out for years, using your daughter and the house as reasons to stay. The not feeling loved excuse was manipulation to justify her affair. Your spark is one-sided nostalgia. She's done. Accept it and focus on being a good co-parent. Get a lawyer immediately to protect your rights as a father. Focus on establishing custody rights and co-parenting arrangements. The house doesn't matter compared to maintaining your relationship with your daughter. Are you sure that's your daughter? Get a paternity test. Get your legal ducks in a row, including shared custody. One of you should find a new place to live. That may include selling the house and splitting the profits. No amount of thinking on your part that you were going to end up together until death do you part changes the fact that she no longer wants to be in a romantic relationship with you. For future relationships, when someone shows you who they are the first time, oh, he's just a friend. Oof. Believe them. Edited to add. This isn't something that just occurred. She has been feeling all sorts of ways about this for a long time. I'm sorry but she wants to live in the house, but co-parent and her sister and her kids still lives with you. It sounds like you are being used for a place to stay. First thing, DNA your daughter. If not for your peace of mind, for hers. What about potential health problems later on? Second thing, Inform your fiance that her sister needs to find other living arrangements because you won't live with them if your fiance won't even consider couples counseling. If she doesn't want you as a partner, fine, but she doesn't get to enjoy the privileges as if she were your partner. Something tells me she might have run into her former AP and has some unresolved feelings for him. It's a lot harder to be walked on when you are standing up. Update me. Damn bro, my condolences. NGL, when she was banging the other dude 3 days a week for 6 months, that wasn't a good look. I understand you did what you did for your daughter, but I think this relationship is cooked. The tires came off a while ago and y'all kept it rolling on sparking rims and momentum. Speak to a lawyer and examine your options. Lots of people co-parent, especially these days. You're just going to make your life miserable trying to clutch onto the broken pieces.